everyone, and welcome to Women in Business 2. My name is Sheila Herkatz, and I'm the General Director at Mujeres en Carrera, an EdTech initiative to improve the lives of women and girls through education in finance and business. I have the honor to introduce to you once again, just like in our previous encounter, to Katie Watt. Hi, Katie, how are you?
Hi, Shay. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited for this second encounter. And I want to welcome everyone to this second Women in Business. That, of course, everyone is welcome, even though its name is Women in Business. I was wondering if you'd like to raise your hand, just or a check mark to see how many of you were in the first encounter. Yeah, we have two people here that are saying that they were in the first encounter. Great. So this second encounter, it's the perfect fit, to create the full profile together with the resume that we did last time. I highly encourage you to ask questions. If you can turn on your cameras, that's going to be great because we can get to know each other. Because every time we get together, we say, "Oh, you were in here last time. That's great," and we create this sense of community. And also you can ask your questions on the chat, and I'm gonna make sure your questions reach Katie right here. So without further ado, I just want to make sure that everyone's fine. Right on the chat, you can ask your questions and unmute yourself. And here you go, Katie, it's all yours.
So much, Shay. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be back for the second round of our Women in Business series. And I just want to thank Sheila and Mujeres en Carrera for inviting me back. I really enjoyed the resume workshop that we did a couple of weeks ago. And for those of you who are new, I invite you to go back to the Mujeres en Carrera website, and you can actually go and watch a recording of the resume workshop. And today is kind of a continuation, but it's a different topic. So you don't need to know the things from the resume workshop. So we're going to talk about something different, but totally related. And just to reiterate what Sheila said, I love questions. I love to have this be a dynamic session. So please ask your questions during the session. Don't feel like you have to wait to the end to ask your questions. I'm happy to take any and all questions during the session. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead. All right, we're good. We can all see the presentation. Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
So today we're going to talk about two things. A little bit different, but very related, and it links in with the resume workshop in the sense that after today, you will have the tools that you need to really create what I call your professional profile. So your professional profile is what colleagues or recruiters or other people in your field, what they see when they look at you on paper or even on social networks, especially like LinkedIn. And we're going to talk about why it's really important. And it's not just so that you can get a job. I think having a good professional profile is fundamental for everybody because it allows you to contact and interact with people in your field, or maybe in a different field and you're thinking about changing your career or doing something new. A professional profile, I think, is really super important. And we're going to talk about the infamous cover letter and also your LinkedIn profile. Before we do that, I need to put my phone in do not disturb, because that way the notifications won't come in and bother us. There we go. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to talk about a cover letter. And we're going to work through an example actually of a cover cover letter that I presented a little over a year ago. And we're going to work through the parts. We're going to talk about what is a cover letter, how do I create a cover letter, and I think open it with a little bit of the debate. Is the cover letter dead? You'll see on a lot of the professional profile sites or the networking sites, people will say, well, the cover letter is dead. I don't think so. I think the cover letter has evolved. Absolutely. The cover letter is going to be a formal letter, and it's what you send along with your resume. Now, how you do that is going to be different, especially today from 20 years ago, maybe. From 20 years ago, people would tell you, you can't deliver a resume without a cover letter. Your resume must go with a cover letter. And nowadays, you will actually see job applications that say, please do not send a cover letter. What they mean is, don't send a cover letter in the same document with your resume. But you still have to send an email with your resume, right? Unless you're applying inside an application system, that's going to be a little bit different because you're really restricted by the requirements of the system, what you need to do. But if you're sending an email with your resume or your curriculum, what we say in Spanish, if you're sending your email, you need to put something in that body of the email. And you don't just want to put, I'm sending my resume, please see attached. No, that is what your cover letter has become. So we want to send something in that body of the email so that they can see a quick kind of snapshot. Who are you? And what is it that you're sending along? And there are a few common things that we need to include, but my philosophy, and there are certainly people who disagree with me, and that's okay, but my philosophy is that the cover letter is not dead. It has evolved into a cover email, but I would even be so bold if I'm sending a full resume, I still send a cover letter with that resume in the PDF, unless the job description specifically says do not send a cover letter. I think it's a formality, and nowadays sending something that is well written is really important, and I think it's a courtesy. Maybe I'm a little bit old-fashioned. I'm an old-fashioned millennial in that sense, but I do think that a cover letter is a formality and a courtesy in a way of saying, I'm not just sending you this document as a robot. There's a person behind this, and I researched your company, and I researched this position, and I want you to know more about me. That's what I think the cover letter is today. So what should the cover letter achieve? It should introduce yourself and show some of your personality. It's hard to show personality on a resume. There are ways to do it. If you go back to the resume workshop, we talked about using color and images and playing with some boxes and using a different text. But really, your resume needs to communicate the important things that you have done and developed in your work life. So the cover letter gives you a chance to tell some personal stories, to share some personal information. The cover letter should be extremely specific for each different job you're applying for. So it's really hard to have a generic cover letter. In the sense, if I just send the same cover letter, the person reading it is going to know right away that you just drafted a cover letter and it has all the same information that you're sending to the other companies. So the cover letter, you should research who is the person that is going to be reading your application. You should research some information about the company. You should research the position, the job position, and include specific language from that job position in your resume, in your cover letter, which is something we're going to look at here in just a minute. And it needs to do more than just summarize or explain your resume. You want to give some personal anecdotes, some personal stories. And finally, it should show that you're going to be a good fit in the company, not just based on your skills, but also based on your personality. So
Katie, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you hit the nail on the head when you said right now what you just said, that it's when you really do the research on the company, that's so important, because you can relate your cover letter not only to how the perfect fit it is, like to be in the company, together with the job description, describing which are the things that they're looking for and which is the experience that you have, but also align those objectives with the objectives of the company. Maybe sometimes we do some work that is volunteer work or some other kind of work that is not specifically related to, it was a paid job, but then maybe it aligns with the purpose of the organization that you're trying to apply and get the job at. So it's so important that you research the company you're applying to.
Absolutely. And I think that that's one of the things that makes a cover letter really powerful, is when you show that you know about the company and the position, and you did your homework, right? You're interested in this position. You're not just sending these random applications like a try to get. So I want to talk a little bit about the components of a cover letter. Again, it's going to be really hard to draft the job that I applied for a couple of years ago, but the cover letter should have some important components. First, we're going to talk about the format and the aesthetic. Then we're going to talk about the salutation, in the saludo in Spanish, when you begin it, the introduction, the explanation of your experience, a call to action, a signature, and contact information. So all of these should be included in your cover letter, and we're going to go piece by piece together now. So when you submit a cover letter, it should have the same aesthetic as your resume. So that can mean a lot of different things. You can have the same header as your resume. You want to use the same font as your resume. So on one side, you can see the cover letter here. On the other side, you can see my resume. So you want to see a similar aesthetic so that it looks like the same person wrote it. You can tell that they're documents that go together. Then when I talk about the cover letter being a letter, this is if you're going to send it as a separate document and not just as an email. So if you were to send this as an email, you wouldn't include the address and the date of the person. But we need to think back maybe to our old English classes and our formal letter format. You should include, I've removed it for privacy purposes, but the name of the person who is going to be reading your application. This, I think, is a really personal touch, and it's probably one of the most difficult parts, is to actually find out who is going to read your application. Sometimes the application will say, please address correspondence to this person. Most of the time they don't. So you might want to start with who is the head of HR, who is the recruiter. You can even send a message if you see it posted somewhere. Who is the person? What's the name of the person who's going to be reading my application? Again, this goes back to doing your homework. You should include their position and the company and the address of the company if you can. You include the date And then we have the salutation here. And the salutation should be formal. In
a little bit into the details because we can't see it that much. Yeah, a little bit. There you go. Excellent. Thanks.
So you should have all of that information, and then the salutation should be something very formal. In English, the way that we begin a formal letter is with dear, which a lot of people say in Spanish, oh, querido, blah, blah, blah. No, it actually means like estimado or estimada. And you want to use Mr. or Ms. and their last name, their surname. And again, it's and showing respect. Remember, in English, we don't have the usted. And so this is kind of a way to address somebody in a formal way and use a formal version of English in order to address them. Again, I might be old-fashioned, but I think that that's important. So that's a little bit about the structure, the format, the salutation. Then you're going to have the body of your letter. We're going to talk about these components, and then your signature. And your signature, your signature, if you have a digital signature, I would include it. Again, it just makes it look nice, I think, to look like you physically signed it, even in today's digital age. And then also a printed version of your name. So I include a digital signature and then a written version. And then I always like to put here enclosed, especially if I'm sending, for example, my resume in English and my CV in Spanish, so that they know that there's going to be a few different documents that go along with this document. If you're just sending your resume, you might not need to put enclosed resume. But again, it's something that you can include, and it helps the person keep track of the documents. So the salutation, I talked about that. Always try to find out the name of the person, include their name, their title, the company, and their address. And then we go to the introduction, the first paragraph in your cover letter. Your first paragraph is your introduction, and here you should state what is the position that you're applying for. You should state, thank you, Jacqueline. You should state how you found out about the position. And this is one of those ways that we have, maybe you know somebody at the company, or maybe somebody recommended this position to you and you don't really know how to say, oh, hey, I know this person. This is the elegant way to incorporate it. So I am applying to such and such position, and I found out about it from this person at the company. Of course, the person who recommended it to you needs to know that you're including their name in this, because they're going to say, hey, Sheila, I got this resume from Katie. And then you just want to give a brief summary why you think you're a good fit for this position. So I want to just jump in to a quick example. And you can see some of the language, and those of you who are connected today will have access. But you can say something like, it is with great pleasure that I present this application for blah, blah, blah position. I found out about information from, and here I name the person. And the person actually who sent me this position was not directly affiliated with this company, but with a different company, but she was really important. And I tell them why I think I would be a good fit to improving access to education for students and professionals in the American region. This came directly out of the job description, and we're going to look at that also in a minute.
that's a very good point, because sometimes when we don't really know where to start with the cover letter, for example, you get the job description and you have it right there. We're looking for a person that has this and this and that experience, X and Y seniority, and it will be a plus if you are trilingual or bilingual or whatever it is. So it's very, very important to take a look at that. And we mentioned this in the previous session, that sometimes you have to tweak your resume also, depending on which is the the job description and the opening that is out there, because there are going to be some relevant things that you're not going to need in one resume because of the requests of the job, and other particulars that you will have to include in your resume, and of course in your cover letter as well.
Exactly. And you're actually one slide ahead of me, Shay. I'm going to show you actually my process for kind of developing this. So when we get into the explanation of experience, which is going to be the majority of our cover letter, you should choose 2 or 3 anecdotes from your professional or personal, I should add here to the presentation, professional or personal experience that relate directly to this position. And you want to explain how those experiences demonstrate how you will be successful in the job. You want to utilize similar language and keywords from the job posting, which is what you were saying. And my philosophy is don't tell me, show me, which means I've been working with some students who are applying for international scholarships right now. And one of them, she said, well, I'm a really good communicator. Okay, don't tell me that you're a good communicator. Show me something that you did that demonstrates that you're a good communicator. Tell me about a situation where you had to resolve a conflict with different people. What you did in that situation that shows that you are a good communicator. So my big tip, and this is kind of my secret to writing a cover letter, is to print the job description and highlight the points that each of these paragraphs, each of these anecdotes will demonstrate. And this is also really helpful when we go to copy the language. So I'm not going to sit here and read this to you. One, because I don't want to use precious time from your day to read it when you can get the PowerPoint and read it. But I want to show you a little bit of what I did. And this was supposed to be a highlighter, but it saved black. But you can imagine here I highlighted specific parts from the job description. I will fix this for the version that you will get. And you can see this is the paragraph from my cover letter here on the side. And you can see where I used either the exact same language, and this whole anecdote is related to this point, this point, this point, this point, and this point, all in just one paragraph. Then the second paragraph from this cover letter, I have information that I lifted directly from the job description here. This is the same job description. From this point, this point, this point, this point, this point, and this point. And then in the third paragraph of my cover letter here, I highlighted the information that related to these tasks. And these ones were more kind of administrative tasks. So in the final paragraph of experience, I started listing some of the more administrative tasks that the job description required. And I actually did an exercise. I wasn't sure if this was gonna work, but I did the exercise and I put each of those on top of each other, each of those images, and you can see that I actually utilize all of the information from the job description, except for this point, which I put in my resume. And I incorporated all of the points from the job description into this cover letter. So if you were to go back, I'll show you, to my cover letter, the highlighted pieces are these first 3 paragraphs. So in these paragraphs here,
examples of the qualifications that you included there, like the pieces.
Right, so that's what's in these slides that got blacked out instead of highlighted when I converted it. So the job description said experience with international students and professionals. And so in my cover letter, I talked about Katie Watt English Consulting Services, an independent firm specializing in professional English, foreign affairs, particularly as they apply to the United States. So I lifted that language from here and I put it directly into that paragraph. Again, in the material that we send you, this will be highlighted, so you will be able to actually read the text and not blacked out until just now. But then you can see that I put all of these on top of each other and I incorporated all of that information. So when you go to conclude your cover letter, because each of these examples are going to be very specific to the job description. So I really recommend doing this exercise where you take the job description and you try to incorporate each point or several points into these different anecdotes. Once you do that, you need to conclude. How do you stop and say, okay, this is enough? First of all, it should only be 1 page maximum. Your cover letter should not go more than 1 page. And you should give just a nice summary. You should thank the person. I feel like nowadays we forget to thank people. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for taking the time to read my application. A thank you goes a long way. A call to action, something like, I look forward to hearing from you soon. Sure. And we have a lot of vocabulary. Sincerely, warm regards, and then you sign it. So here is my conclusion. I believe that I bring an international and an entrepreneurial vision to the position. My experience, and again, I'm still utilizing language from the job description, both in the US and Argentina, will allow me to effectively deliver advising activities, and my administrative experience will be supportive to strategic planning for future activities. I thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to a favorable response. So that's how I concluded the cover letter. And then we already talked a little bit here about signing it and if you're going to include an enclosure. So that is kind of the end of this first half where we talk about the cover letter. I think maybe Shay, we can pause for 5 minutes here and see if there are any questions.
I don't see any questions typed here, but maybe you want to unmute yourself and ask the question yourself, or type the question right now in the chat area so that I can communicate that to Katie. You know, all questions are welcome, all questions are good, and they're all, you know, like maybe you have a question and someone else has a question and hasn't asked. So it really, really helps with the understanding, and remember that later on you will implement this. So if you have a question, now is a good time to ask. I don't see any questions yet. So I would say, let's go ahead. I think you are very clear. And we can go ahead to the next section. you feel like you have another question related to this first part, please do so, write it on the chat or unmute yourself.
So let's talk a little bit about your LinkedIn profile. I am a huge believer in LinkedIn. I have gotten several job opportunities through LinkedIn. My husband's gotten several job opportunities through LinkedIn, and it is an extremely important tool when we're talking about not only looking for jobs, but when we want to connect with colleagues in our field, other professionals. We can learn from other people, we can learn new things. And also, if you want to maybe branch out, maybe you want to change direction in your career a little bit, and LinkedIn is a really great tool to use it. I am not a LinkedIn expert, and I am not very active on LinkedIn myself, to be perfectly honest. But I think that's part of the beauty of LinkedIn is you can kind of be a passive participant. Then when you need it, you can utilize it, and then you can kind of go back to a more passive participation on LinkedIn. But it is really important, if you have a LinkedIn profile, that you maintain it, that it is up to date, and that the information on it is correct, because somebody might find you, which is what happened to me with this previous job. Somebody contacted me and they actually asked me if I knew somebody who I could recommend for the position. And I said, yes, me. Unfortunately, my profile was up to date and I had everything ready and I was able to apply for the job. Just kind of doing some regular maintenance on the LinkedIn profile. So the LinkedIn profile, my philosophy is it's kind of your living resume. So it should have all of the information that is on your resume and more. Of course, you can upload, if you're kind of a visual designer or you have links to projects, you can upload those projects. You can include links. You can link to organizations that you volunteer with. So that's really powerful as far as linking your work to other people that you collaborate with or other companies. It is the largest professional social network, and recruiters and employers utilize data on this. But I know from experience that most big companies and recruiters utilize LinkedIn a lot. You also have access to colleagues all over the world, and I think that this is a really important point. Again, not just to find a job, but to learn and to understand what is going on in your field, not just in Argentina, not just in Latin America, but in other places around the world. So what information should you include on your LinkedIn profile? The easy answer is everything, but it should be relevant professional information. So we do not want to utilize LinkedIn for personal posts. In general, I don't recommend political posts, just because, and maybe this is kind of the US side of me, the diversity and discrimination laws are so strict in the United States that I don't want somebody to know what my political opinion is, because maybe they see my profile and they don't want to hire me because I have a certain position. Or what happened to me eventually with this position, they found out that I had 2 small children, not from LinkedIn, but they found out that I had 2 small children, and they said, well, I think it's just going to be really hard for you to coordinate this job with your family life. So we're going to find somebody who doesn't have kids. And it was really kind of a slap in the face, because that's my problem, right? How I organize my life with my kids.
By the way, I would
What's
say
that?
That it's a very discriminatory practice for recruiters to say that.
Absolutely. And to say it in an interview point. Again, I come back to one of those points, especially since the majority of us here are women. It's a sad reality, but we don't want to put pictures of our children on LinkedIn for that very reason, right? We don't want them to know if we have children, because they're going to say, well, what happens one day when the nanny doesn't come? When the nanny has a pain in her neck and she can't come to your house. So you don't want them to have kind of any of those personal predispositions is, not permitted to have pictures on your resume. Well, your LinkedIn profile is going to have a picture. So that is just one of the realities of LinkedIn. If you include it on your resume, know that they're going to see your picture, and it should be an accurate picture in this. You don't want to of you 10 years ago. So you want to choose a picture that's professional, but that reflects you. We're going to look at some examples and some examples of what not to do. So that's just kind of my little asterisk there on personal information. I try to keep political opinions to a minimum, family life to a minimum. As far as you're comfortable, you know that you can run the risk of any post having some sort of negative impact, but just keep that in mind. Do I have to keep my profile active? Yes and no. Again, it should be up to date. It should have all of the relevant information. If you get a new job or you have new responsibilities or you start a new project, you should include that on your profile. But you don't have to be on LinkedIn all day, every day. You don't have to publish posts. You don't have to interact on other publications. So that's kind of one of the nice things is you can have a nice profile and you don't really need to do a whole lot after that if you don't want to. So we're going to look at some of the components of the LinkedIn profile. And again, you'll see we're going to kind of break this down and look at the header and the photo, the general components. We're going to look at posts, articles, groups, interactions, how you can actually download and build a resume from your LinkedIn. We're going to look at jobs, a customized URL, and languages. It looks like a lot. We're going to do some of these very quickly, and then we'll go to some of these really interesting parts, which is the second part. So I'm going to share with you my husband's LinkedIn. He gave me his permission. So we're going to look at his because, to be honest, mine is not up to date. Casa de Herrero. So we're going to take a look at my husband, and I have been after him for a year now. He really needs to probably change his picture because this is a picture taken at my mother-in-law's house. I would like for him to have maybe a little bit more of a professional picture, or he's an agricultural engineer, so maybe a picture of him in the field. So if you don't, if you work in a field in design or kind of a more creative field and you want to do a picture of you actually working, that's a great alternative than just a formal headshot of you in a suit. And he has like a lake here. I think it would be better for him to put a farm here, for example, for his header. But again, these are small details, but there are ways that you can personalize your profile. If you own a company, you have the possibility to put your logo here. Yeah, it's for your company, your logo. You can put your website in it. It's a specific size, and I don't know off the top of my head. Shayla, do you know the size for the LinkedIn banner?
I don't know the size, but I can figure. I may be able to find out in a couple of minutes if you give me a couple of minutes.
Okay. If you don't mind, it's a very specific size, but anyways. So this is just some ways that you can kind of personalize your profile without doing any sort of crazy design work.
Katie, I got it.
And then within your okay.
The LinkedIn banner is 1400 by 425 pixels. That's what it is.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Yes. It's a very strange size. So you do need to do some like formatting when you do it. Otherwise it's going to get distorted, especially if you're uploading something like a logo. And if you have a designer, you need to send them that size so that they put your logo into that specific size. Otherwise it's going to get really stretched out and it's going to look bad. But then when we look at some of the basic features, right, you're going to see your name, your profession, your current position, and then maybe your education. You can configure this. You're going to see a short about. For those of you who took the resume workshop, this would be your professional summary. So you can just copy paste in here, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Then you're going to see a summary of all of your work experience and your education experience. And then when you click on this, for example, if you click on one of these work experiences, then it will take you to a page where it will open the work experience.
Katie, we're losing your audio. Turn off the camera and see your experience.
I don't think that at the you have the past include. Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead. Is that better?
I'll let you know. So far, it's okay.
Okay. All right. So I was saying you could click on one of your work experiences and it will open and expand to paste from your resume. Again, I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. And then a really important point at the bottom of your profile, this is something we talked about in the resume workshop, that maybe we don't put all of this on our resume just because we don't have space, or, you know, you don't want to just say like, I'm interested in wine, right? I like to drink wine. Okay. On your resume, if you did like a sommelier course, that's something to include, but it's not, you know, or I like to read. So this gives you the opportunity to select causes and interests and just kind of give your profile a personal touch for some of those points that you're interested in, but maybe not, you know, super relevant professionally. Then you have the opportunity, just like on Facebook or on Instagram, you can create posts, you can interact with posts, you can like posts, you can comment, you can share. They just activated, after I created this presentation a week ago, they activated the ability to do stories like you can do on Instagram. So you can now do LinkedIn stories that last 24 hours. And my husband, he kind of made a personal goal, like once a week, he tries to make some sort of publication just to keep his profile active. He has a lot of clients that might use it. So he tries to find maybe one news article per week and he shares it. He'll share it with a hashtag. Sometimes he'll give a little bit of analysis. And that's just a nice, easy way to kind of keep your profile moving. Of course, there's crazy logarithms with LinkedIn. So the more active you are, the higher you appear on searches. So it's just a way to kind of keep his profile active. It doesn't take a lot of work to just say, you know, one day a week, I'm going to publish a news article. And then you have the possibility to have skills and endorsements. I'm not a huge fan of these. Like, I don't think they're super important. I think they add value, but if you don't have skills and endorsements, that's okay too. You can add languages, and this is something really important that we're going to talk about, honors and awards. And some companies, so this one, my husband didn't just put this on here. Some companies actually have their honors and awards like linked to LinkedIn. So in your company, you can win an award and then it automatically appears on your LinkedIn profile, which is a really cool function if your company has that activated. So you can see that if you click on this, it will take you to the page of the company where he won this award. And then you have contact information. One of the important things in the contact information that we're going to talk about and look at tonight is your URL, your link. And you can personalize this. So we're going to look at how to do that. But then, of course, you want this to be the correct contact information. And of course, the email, if somebody's going to contact you, the email that you want it to go to. So you might not want this email to be your work email, for example. You probably want this to be a personal email, but again, you don't want it to be kisses1234@hotmail.com. So you want it to kind of be something that reflects probably your name, or if you own your own company, you can put your personal email there. Okay, so that's the general LinkedIn profile. And what I want to talk about specifically are a couple of the functions that are maybe not so common, or maybe that you don't know about on LinkedIn. So the first thing I want to look at is on your homepage, when you go to view my profile, you have this more button. You can share your profile via message. So you can message somebody and it will just send a link to that person and take them directly to your profile. But you can also save your profile to a PDF, and you can also build a resume from the information on your LinkedIn, which is really cool if you want to, maybe you need to make a resume really fast. Maybe you didn't do your homework from the resume workshop and you need to create a profile really fast. You can actually select certain pieces of your LinkedIn profile and it will generate a resume for you. And that's here. So it will give you something like this. It will give you the buttons to be able to modify it. And then you can select, maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't want to include one of these points from the summary. It allows you to check these keywords. It allows you to modify the information from your experience. So once you save it, then you will preview and download it, and it will generate a PDF of your resume. Now, it's going to be very generic. You're not going to be able to modify the format, and obviously it's going to go with the LinkedIn logo because the LinkedIn is what has generated it for you. But I think this is a really nice feature if you're in a hurry. And I also use it as like a double check. So once I put all of the information into my LinkedIn profile, I go to this generate profile, this generate resume function, and I make sure that it looks a lot like my resume. They should be very similar documents. You want the same information. And you can also download your profile to a PDF and it will look something like this. Again, similar to a resume. Again, I'm not a fan of the format, but it can maybe save you a lot of time if you're in a hurry. I just think that these are a really neat feature in LinkedIn that people often don't know about. And the final thing I'm going to talk about here before I go to the live page is just about LinkedIn Jobs. For LinkedIn Jobs, it's on your profile. You can see a tab I think I did this on my iPad, so it's on the bottom. I see a question in the stories. Is it possible to tell about your professional activities? Yes. So I haven't played a lot with the stories, but for example, Jacqueline, if you post an article, or you post something onto your profile, then you have the option to upload it to your stories. So somebody who's looking at your story, just like in Instagram or in Facebook, they can click on it and it will take you to the longer article on your profile. So it's a really nice way to generate some traffic on your profile. It's also, I can imagine using it myself, like if you go to a conference and you take a picture at a conference of the speaker or the presentation, I was here at this conference, you take a selfie. So I think that's a really great way to show that you're participating in certain professional activities. I also understand if there's, an influencer that you follow, you can also share their publications to your stories, just like you would in Instagram or Facebook. It has almost the exact same feature. Great question. And so the final thing about jobs is great because you can kind of put these certain keywords in, and you can set job alerts. So again, this is useful if you're looking for a new job, or if you're looking to, let me make this a little bit bigger here. So in the search bar, you can put, I just did it for me, English specialist in Argentina. And then you have all of these filters, and it will give you the results of things that are available in your area, in your country. Whoops. Sorry about that. And then you have this option, which is really great when you're looking for jobs actively, to set an alert. So if you start to like the filter that you have here, and you're starting to get job positions that interest you, then you can set job alerts for this search. And every couple of days, you'll get an email, and it will say, these are the new jobs that were posted that fit these criteria that you defined up here. And so it kind of automates a little bit your job search, which is a really just kind of convenient way so that you don't feel like you have to be searching and searching and searching all day, every day. So let's stop here for 1 minute. This is just my reminder that now I'm going to change my screen for you and see if there are any other questions.
There's no questions so far here on the chat. However, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your questions, please do so. You're more than welcome to do it. I don't know if you want to raise your hand, mute yourself, so everything's okay. I don't see any.
Everything is okay.
Katie,
all right.
The job alerts, and I still get them. I'm not using them right now, but I still get the alerts. And when I moved to Mexico, I used them a lot. And as I said on the chat, I just typed it in. I used it very, very much. What I used very, very much was the app, because LinkedIn Jobs has a separate app that you can do your filters, and it's not the same app as the regular LinkedIn. So that one is very useful as well.
You're exactly right. Yeah. I have a couple of filters. I'm not necessarily actively looking for a job, but it's nice to know kind of what's going on in the field also. For those of us who are independent, to see, what are the people they're looking for? What are the new trends? So it's just a nice way to kind of stay updated to, what's going on in your field, or if you're going to want to change your job. So I'm sharing my live screen with you now. And I just want to say, in the materials that you're going to get, I have some screenshots very similar to the ones that we just looked at. to kind of help you remember, but we're gonna work with the live page here for now. Let me see if I can, I'm gonna put you guys down here at the bottom of my screen so that I can see up here. Great. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at our profile, my profile. So we're gonna look at my husband's profile. This is where we edit everything that we just looked at, and you'll see where you edit the information is where you have these little pencils. But what I want to look at are three really important things here. First of all, your public profile and URL. So if we click here, you will see that my husband's URL is his name. Maybe if you go into your LinkedIn, it's going to say like your name and then some numbers and letters, and it's going to be crazy. So ideally, you want this to be your name, or in my case, it would be Katie Watt English. And a fun trick that I learned in a workshop is you can add dashes and you can put keywords. And so if somebody searches Matias Lopez Martin, they're going to still come to his page, but maybe they say, oh, I met this guy, Matias Lopez, like that's a common name, but he was an agriculture guy. So I put Matias Lopez agriculture in Google, and it's going to bump his profile up above all of the other Matias Lopez that live in the world. He also does sales and marketing. So you can add some keywords here. You have to use a dash in order to do it. You cannot use the slash, the barra. You have to use the guion. But it's kind of a cool way to put some keywords into your profile. It's important to know you can only change this, I think, once every 30 days. So you can't change your URL all the time. So once, my recommendation, change it one time and kind of leave it. And then, you know, maybe if you change professions or something, then go back and change it. But try to kind of choose these keywords very carefully. And it's just a way to win places in the search engine.
That's a great tip, Katie, actually, because especially with names that are very, you know, like popular, it happens that sometimes you want to look for someone and then he never appears, or he appears, but you don't know which one he is. So I really like this tip, honestly.
Yeah, it's a really great way to add some keywords. Where when we talk about, the fancy term is search engine optimization, right? The famous SEO, which I know almost nothing about except this, except to add these keywords to your URL, which, exactly like you said, if you have a name that's not, you know, maybe you have a really unique name, but you have a name that's common, like my husband, Matias Lopez, it's a way that you can kind of stand out in the searches. So I'm actually going to go back here. And the other thing that I want to talk about is this function right here. So for all of you in these workshops, this is going to be golden. Most of you, if you have a LinkedIn profile, it's probably set in Spanish. And so all of your information is in Spanish, right? Ingeniero agrónomo, desarrollar vínculos. He just did this because this used to be all in English, and I yelled at him about it because I was like, both of your profiles are in English. But what this does is it gives you the possibility to make a copy of your profile in another language. It doesn't have to be English. So I don't know, maybe you work in a field where you need to have your second profile in French or German, I don't know. For this case, I selected English. And when you choose English, it's going to show a mirror of your profile. English. And so what I want to show you is here, if we go to modify an experience for an example, you're going to see Spanish, your primary profile. And this is where you have all of your information. And then you put what you would have from your curriculum in español here. And then you have the opportunity to add it exactly the same in English here. And it will actually show you, this is the Spanish version. And then from your beautiful resume that you developed from our resume workshop, you can copy and paste your English description here. This is a fabulous, fabulous tool. And one of the really important points of this tool is it will change depending on who the searcher is. So, for example, my LinkedIn profile is configured in English. My primary profile is in English. So when I go to his page, I automatically see it in English because LinkedIn detects that my primary language is in English. So if you are applying to jobs in the United States or in Europe, where the person who's looking at your profile, if their profile is set to English, then they will see your profile automatically in English. So you don't have to worry, oh, maybe they're gonna see it in Spanish and then they're gonna click translate and the translation is gonna come out horribly. No, this is the way that you can kind of prepare yourself against that happening. And you can have your profile, your main profile in Spanish, so that if somebody in Argentina or in Latin America is looking at your profile, they will see it in Spanish. And then somebody who has their profile set to English can see it in English. Unfortunately, for now, you can only do 2 languages. They do not permit 3 or 4. Although I would hope that that's a function that they're going to be developing in the future, because I think that's really important. So those are my 2 like real special tips for LinkedIn for normal people, right? You know, what can I do as a normal person to kind of optimize my LinkedIn profile?
Those are amazing tips. And let me tell you that I've learned so much today. One of my favorite LinkedIn sections, if whenever you're finished with your screen, I can share with you which is my favorite. But LinkedIn offers so many possibilities, so much visibility, because you can even become an author and publish your own writings, your articles. I'm an author on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and honestly, it gave me a lot of visibility out there around the world, because I lived in many countries, so I have a lot of people, you know, in different countries that are able to follow what I do, and that's wonderful. And that's why LinkedIn is one of my favorite professional tools.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot of trainings on LinkedIn, and I don't pretend to be a LinkedIn expert. There's, you know, lots of other things that you can do on LinkedIn, but I think these are some very basic things, but that a lot of people don't know, that can be very powerful for your profile. Just, you know, someone like me, I don't know anything about search engine optimization, but I saw that trick and it was easy. And, you know, I thought, hey, I could do this. So let me, hold on. I'm just going to come back real quick and then share away. But I just want to show you all so these are the screenshots that I'm leaving for you inside the presentation so that you remember where we went. You can see the edit the public profile and URL is where we modified your link, the URL, and kind of a little step-by-step here. And then where you can find the languages here. And then when you modify it, how you can modify the 2 languages. So I just left you with those screenshots to kind of remind you. And that is the end of my presentation.
Wonderful, Katie. And please take note of Katie's contact information because she's so good at answering questions. Whatever question you may have, you can contact her, and I'm sure she will answer you with so much love because that's.
I'm curious to hear your favorite LinkedIn feature, Shay.
Okay, so my favorite LinkedIn feature for a while. Okay, let's see if I can share my screen. No.
I have to stop sharing for you to share.
So I'm gonna show you my LinkedIn profile here, and one of my favorite sections here is this one. You know, the recommendations. How many I've been given, and how many I've received, and how many I've given other people. And this is great because you know how some people say, okay, so do you include recommendations or so on and so forth? So here I have the recommendations of some people that I worked with in the United States when I was there, one of my professors from my master's degree. I have Ronnie, I worked with her in the United States. Inigo, I worked with him in Mexico. Eddie, I worked with him here in Argentina. So I think it's so valuable because I know sometimes we are asked to, I just want to leave this. Let's see if I can't share it for some reason, but anyway, it's one of my favorite. I can provide these recommendations to people, and I can say, you have them on my LinkedIn. I can take a snapshot, and there I go. That's one of the greatest functions. And also, you know, like besides having some other contact information for people that can talk about my work and they know me, this is great because they go straight ahead to your profile and they see it. The recruiters know where those recommendations are. So there's this feature where you can actually send a message from within LinkedIn to a person you know, someone you've worked with, a supervisor or a manager, and say, oh, listen, I would like to have a good work from you. So they go ahead, and most of the times they do it for you, and it's great. That's one of my favorite sections on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it is. It's powerful. I know that also has something to do with the search optimization too. If you have more recommendations, you appear higher in the search results. So there's a lot that you can work with on these sections. But it's good to start with some of these small tips. You know, ask someone for a recommendation, personalize your URL. Put some of those keywords into your URL, and it's a good way to start working with your LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely. And we are wrapping up because it's almost time, Katie. I want to thank you so much for being here, for your time, for your eagerness, and to share what you know. And tell you all that this we're going to share the presentation that Katie put together for all of you tonight, and we're also going to share the link to the Mujeres en Carrera platform where we're going to host this recording, and we're going to send more communications on some of these encounters that we're gonna keep doing, but we're going to be doing other things. Katie, would you like to tell everyone about the cohort we're about to open?
Yes. So we're really excited because we're trying something new here between Mujeres en Carrera and English Consulting Services. You have the possibility to be one of 4 exclusive participants of our professional profile cohort. And in the cohort, it will be personalized consulting with me and with Shayla, where we will look specifically at your resume, your cover letter, and your LinkedIn profile. So the 4 participants will be able to develop those from zero in English guided by both of us. And we can pass you it comes at a super discount for being part of Mujeres en Carrera. And we would love to help you develop your own professional profile. We have some tips here in both of these workshops, but it takes a lot of work to create a good profile. So we want to help you with that. And
Go ahead.
the Extreme Makeover.
Yeah, of course. Tell them about it.
Special for our the participants only who participated in the webinar. We are raffling off, if you will, an extreme resume makeover. So it is the possibility for you to send us your resume. We will do a live Zoom session where I will ask you questions. I will give your resume a complete makeover into the US style, and then we will publish it to the Mujeres en Carrera platform. So we're really excited to offer these two new activities.
We're excited, and we know this works. We have, international backgrounds. We are now in Argentina, but we worked in different parts of the world, both physically and remotely. And we know that this is going to maximize your opportunities. So take advantage of all these things we're offering. Some of them are free, some of them are premium. But all the encounters we're having here and all the information Katie shared today and the information we shared last time in our previous How to Resume workshop are amazing tips. It really works, and you are going to present yourself in this very professional manner in English, which is always a plus and sometimes a must. So I give you a virtual hug from here. Thank you, Katie, for joining us again and this beautiful how-to webinar. And stay tuned into the Mujeres en Carrera website. It's www.mujeresencarrera.com.ar, and also on Instagram at Mujeres en Carrera. And we're also very active on LinkedIn as Mujeres en Carrera too. So good night, good evening, everyone. I hope you had a great experience here, and looking forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye, Katie. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.